Hello, YouTube. This is the Galley La Podcast, and this week we're going to be discussing One Piece manga chapter 1077. You shouldn't put it together soon. You should have put it together sooner. We have like and subscribe. I am Akainu Fanboy, and then that's Geboss. So we have a continuation of the Germa 66 cover story where, wait a sec, it's all Vegapunk's fault, which is kind of funny, reflected on the whole thing. Do you think this is going to be the conclusion of probably one of the longest cover stories in the series?
I don't know. Because I thought Oda was going to end this back with Aokiji capturing Pudding. So I have no idea.
Yeah, no, it could definitely continue on, and maybe they're going to, pick up Queen somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
Or his corpse or whatever.
Get the gang back together.
Yeah, exactly. So I also think, so obviously the title could apply to Zoro, but I think in some ways maybe it could apply to the traitor potentially, or the hidden figure who's been doing all the crap at Egghead Island. But first we have Sentomaru reflecting on the Ohara incident. And that the fact that basically they say we're going to be the next Ohara thing, kind of giving an indication that there's going to be something comparable to a Buster Call happening soon. And we did see multiple ships leave already. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was kind of confused. So, do you think that these things are all robots? Because I thought the only things that were people on the island were Sentomaru and the Vegapunks.
Yeah, they could be cyborgs. I think that makes the most sense for what the government would want, because they wouldn't want to have all these people just living there and giving away all the secrets that the government, they have at Egghead Island. But that's the kind of my first instinct. What about you?
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought, because I need to reread, but I don't recall seeing them before. But yeah, we see the brief introduction of the or the brief recap of what happened in Robin's flashback, which was, it's kind of cute because it's almost like a chibi-fied version of everything.
Yeah, it's cute, but it's one of the most horrific backstories.
Exactly, but yeah, I think with Saint Saturn coming, that this is going to be more devastating than Ohara.
Yeah.
Just in terms of how much they want to wipe it out. Because it's almost like Vegapunk has kind of outlived his usefulness now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's interesting that he says that Sentomaru says that's why I think whatever's coming will be even more monumental, and this place will be ground zero. So, yeah, Oda's putting down the thread that this is not going to be a clean ending to the arc, I feel.
Yeah, and this chapter is definitely getting more complicated. We'll talk about that more later, but we have the good old Luffy-Lucci matchup coming in, and the Kaku-Zoro matchup. We're going to see some new attacks from both Kaku and Lucci. Tempest Kick, Onslaught, and Yellow Lotus handgun. So that was kind of cool to see. And yeah, the Seraphim seem relatively okay, and we have this really awesome scene with Zoro, oh yeah, I should have put it together sooner, but oh man, honestly, it feels like they should all be on the crew too, Lucci and Kaku. They all have a good chemistry going right now.
Yeah, but I don't think they should be on the crew.
I know. It's just funny and comical,
Yeah.
I love that panel. It's good because it's a nice little mini character moment for Zoro we don't get his. So I like that. That was actually pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
I actually thought there were a lot of good character moments for the Straw Hats in this one chapter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So what were your thoughts on them fighting the Seraphim?
I mean, it kind of shows how strong the Seraphim are at this point, because they're not getting damaged at all by the by Gear 4 Luffy and Lucci. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think that they're more formidable than I initially thought, because just combining all the Vegapunk, like the toughness of the pacifista with King's abilities, is a deadly combo. And I'm just kind of interested to see with what the Lunarian, what that's gonna bring in the future as well.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of interesting how they're referencing the Lunarians. The same chapter, Sanji's doing some interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it at that, you know? Just kind of when I went through Wano again and seeing the anime too, I know that kind of that plot point was kind of dropped in reference to the Lunarian potentially Sanji connection, but I don't know. I think it's still a lively theory at this point, even though he lacks some of those characteristics that King does. But that's for a discussion for another time, perhaps. But I did like the Nami Zeus team up, and I did love how Oda was bringing up the characterization, how Nami doesn't like to hurt kids at all, basically, how she has to close her eyes, you know. And then Zeus comes in strong. So it is cool to see Nami use Zeus. Actually, I do like it a lot.
Yeah. So in this part, so I think one of the leading theories in the community was that Edison was going to be the traitor, but he looks like he's taken out here by the Jinbei Seraphim. So,
yes.
And that theory's kind of shot at the end of the chapter. But the theory with Edison was because he was the last one to give the orders, and the Vegapunks can't like override each other because they're the same authorization. So
right.
But yeah, I didn't expect Sanji to come in and save the day, because he was with his own people.
He was, but I think it's kind of similar to his observation hockey has been shown before, where it's maximalized when it comes to a woman screaming, basically, you know. And I think especially Nami, and so one that shows the speed feat. So you see that little black, what was this? Kind of like a little silhouette, kind of in the background. So do you think that's Sanji coming in from a distance?
Oh, you mean in the which panel?
Oh, if I ruled a country, my decrees would be simple.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's Sanji.
Well, so I'm not sure. So I always kind of go back and forth. At first, I kind of thought it was invisibility, but then Brooke wouldn't have noticed him, basically, you know. Yeah, so I guess that's just him doing an insane speed blitz. But yeah, so Decree 1, anyone who threatens Nami-san will face capital punishment. If I ruled a country, Decree 9, anyone who makes her scream will receive a rare fillet strike. So, one, it's funny. I like it. It's good characterization. This is good. What was it? Yeah, and then this was good, like, comedy. It was a good characterization point because I think I like this chivalrous Sanji a lot better than pervy Sanji, you know? And this is kind of what we're getting right here, you know?
Yeah.
Now, we do see in the panel, I don't give a damn if you're a kid or if you're another Jinbei, I'll be judged during executioner. And then we see his eyebrow flip to that of his brother's.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple things. Oh, sorry, go.
I was going to say, so you have a theory about that.
So, one, this might just be a gag and that's it. 2, this might actually be a character dilemma as things goes on, where the more he kind of goes back and forth between his Germa side and his Sanji side, it may actually become like a character difficulty for him. Not like Jekyll and Hyde per se, but he may just have like temptations in that respect to be ruthless.
Kind of like Pudding. Because Pudding had like a split personality type too.
Yeah, I don't think he'll go completely split, but it's definitely something he's gonna have to fight. But I assume this attack is something unique to his new upgrade that he just got, basically, his German tech.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still kind of under the impression that he might develop invisibility again because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like, yeah, I don't know. It seems as we saw like with the brothers, they can use their innate abilities without being in the suits themselves, and there may be like higher levels of Germa development too. We're not sure how high the ceiling is for that.
Yeah.
But who knows? Nami might slap him pretty bad in the next chapter for doing that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of my main theory is, if I ruled a country, my decrees would be simple. So let's just say if someone were to say, oh, the Mr. Prince thing, Sanji's actually a prince, and he's actually by a kingdom, an ancient kingdom with the world government and all this stuff. They would say that's a bit of a stretch, but Oda made like a massive part of the story around that one line, Mr. Prince, you know. We're starting to see how influential Germa is to the rest of the story. Now, kind of my theory, how I see it at the end of the day, where Sanji says he wants to find the All Blue, I think he's going to reconstitute the Germa Kingdom because the Germa Kingdom's vanished, right? And that I think he's going to reconstitute it on the All Blue and make it a restaurant, basically, to feed the world and make it like a sanctified good Germa, because the other Germa brought death and destruction, and then he's going to bring goodness to the world, basically, like his mom would want, basically, right? So I kind of think this is an indicator. If I ruled a country, I think that's kind of an indicator, like in the future, that one day he is going to actually have a country.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're seeing the struggle with his German lineage within the same scene right here, basically. And there's always like that constant theme with Oda, where no matter how hard you try, your lineage is always going to be a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Garp still having feelings for Luffy, Ace having anger against Dragon, Rocinante and his friction with Doflamingo. There's always kind of this connection with family where it's always going to define a part of you, but it doesn't have to define you completely.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that was kind of a lot to gather from these panels. And I know it kind of just seems like a gag on its surface, but he is a royal at the end of the day, you know? And this kind of implies that he may be a king by the end of the series. Because we haven't really seen this idea before, if I ruled a country, you know?
You putting your money into Conqueror's hockey stocks?
Oh, yeah. And that too, of course. Yeah. I mean, he's literally royalty. I'm just going to throw that out there, you know?
Yeah, so is Stelly.
Stelly, that's true, but I don't think Stelly's rocking the hockey. But at the same time, yeah, so also it would kind of go into Zeph's shoes, right? If he had his own. Zeph was both a pirate and now he owns a restaurant. And I think Sanji wants to follow. It's going to be a mix of Zeph and Judge when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
The royalty and the restaurant and the pirate life all into one, basically.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that's my little theory right there. I know that was a lot to gather off of one panel, but I think it also says over here, the numbers used might be a pun, as 9 and 1 can be combined to form kui, which can be imply of fishing seafood, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just another there. But yeah, I don't know what your thoughts on that, though, but that's kind of what I got from those panels.
Okay. I didn't read too much into that first part like you did, but I find it interesting that Oda, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but the anime just got to the part where Sanji's awakening his Germa stuff, like Queen just broke his sword on him.
Yeah.
But just with the eyebrow, I don't know, it almost seems like when Sanji kind of flips into this mode, he like calls him like Jin Brat.
Yeah.
So he has like a I wouldn't necessarily want to define it totally as like evil, but like a more sinister personality, more closer to his siblings. So I'm wondering if like you said, this is something that he's gonna have to wrestle with or not, because somebody did mention in the same SBS that Zoro's family was revealed that like they asked him straight up, like, what's going on with Sanji's eyebrow? Why did it change like that? And like Oda was basically like, oh, you noticed that, and then didn't give an answer about what was going on. So I do like that it's being reincorporated, and that it's not just like a one-time thing like we thought it was. So I'm almost wondering if he fights, if he begins like fighting harder, more seriously, he like slips into this personality type, like the powers that he would get from the Germa stuff have to be channeled through this different personality. You know what I mean? Yeah,
but I also think there's going to be like a moral fight. So again, I don't think it's going to go full Cavendish, because that would just copy his character.
Yeah.
Where literally split personality. But I think this is because a huge part of Sanji's character is balancing his morals and ideals, basically. You know, that defines like his powers are. We talked about this in our Wano Act 3 review. His power-ups literally match his character development. And so him fighting himself is going to lead to greater power simultaneously with character growth. And I think Oda's going to keep on playing that out, basically.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to be a permanent thing or anything, but I think we said something along... Did we bring up the fact in our Wano review? Part 2 coming soon, eventually. I don't remember if we talked about Zoro's promise to Sanji to stop him if he goes out of control. So, because if that was just set up for like a brief thing in Wano, then that makes Wano even worse, just wasting time on that. But I mean, it's a good little character moment between the two of them. But with this, it kind of puts the thought back in our head, like, oh, there might be a Zoro and Sanji conflict in the future because of this,
which is really cool and is a lot more better done than the pill that Zoro took, which we have still seen no consequences about. That was shit. Anyways, continuing. But no, I do agree with you. Like, this might be like another Chekhov's gun in terms of Sanji's character on the table right here, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like there might be a plot point wherein he actually is going to have to fight this, you know? I'm just not sure what it's going to look like. Like, maybe, like, I'd say closer analogy is going to be more towards a dark light side type of thing, if you will, like Star Wars. I think it might be something more similar to that in terms of, like, a moral friction.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I see, you know? Like, when you fight too aggressively, it kind of brings in the darkness in you in a little bit. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing right here, you know? Because he's doing something good by saving Nami and being a chivalrous guy, which his brothers want to do, right? But at the same time, when he gets more into this power-up, he starts to kind of actualize kind of the base, brute human passions that his brothers only have, basically, you know?
Yeah.
Right, so... Yeah, it's going to be cool. I'm really happy that Oda's keeping this going. But, yeah. Now we get to problematic stuff. But, yeah, continue.
Well,
yeah, do you have any more?
I was having Wano flashbacks with the different floor schematics telling us where we were in the chapter. It's like, you don't need to tell us exactly where we are all the time.
Yeah.
But that's just a little nitpick. But continue with the problematic stuff.
So we said we have young Boa, and so obviously there's another weapon that's similar to the sea chains. It's modified to reduce the power of devil fruits or to get in the way with them, or that Lilith has. Then we have so we get to see more of the personalities of Boa, coming out through as a seraphim and everything. And she uses the blast again, and then we see Frankie apologizing and then turning into stone. And so obviously whenever Boa hit people in Marineford, it wasn't her using like the cute thing basically, or them being attracted to her. It was just if she hit anybody, they turned to stone, right? And then right here, then she does like a little wink cute thing to Usopp and Lilith, and then they turn into stone. Love mellow. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I think this is just more in the vein of her being cute rather than the alternative.
Yeah. Well, I want to take the charitable interpretation too.
Yeah. I can't wait for the Twitter crowd to get a hold of this.
Oh shit.
Because they blow up at all kinds of stuff. But
I kind of wish Oda was a little bit more clear about what her power can do instead of us getting into these awkward panels.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think it's interesting that we now have like a whole group frozen, because now S-Snake can go and do whatever. It would be funny if she wound up in like in Luffy's fight, and Luffy ignores her just the same as the regular Boa.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have too much to say other than like I didn't know Frankie could just grab the bubble and just slam it down on her. I didn't think the bubble was that thick. But yeah, we didn't see this chapter. We didn't see anything with Jinbei and Stussy, who were with Sanji, but now Sanji left that group. And we didn't see anything with Robin and Chopper and who is with them? The big one. I forget her name. But we didn't see them at all, so I wonder what they're up to. They shouldn't be running into any issues with Seraphim, because it's just the 3 of them, right? Oh no, the 4 of them. 2 are with.
But there is kind of a bigger issue though, is that they can't just simply leave now because Usopp and Frankie are turned into stone.
Yeah. Again, like, I'm just wondering if this goes into the whole devil fruit hockey thing. If someone else's hockey could affect like someone's condition like that, because we saw Law shake off Doc Q's ability with his hockey, so
but at the same time Blackbeard said he couldn't get his crew back unless Boa turned them back.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
yeah, that is a problem.
I had a thought just now, like, what if they take Frankie and Usopp as statues onto the ship, they retreat, and they have to find Boa?
I don't know. I feel like that's too much of a detour to do, because unless Oda off-screens Elbaf, and Kid just does whatever he does with Shanks, gets the poneglyph or whatever is on Elbaf. Yeah. But yeah, I forgot that you needed to have Boa to undo it.
Yeah, so this really makes things a lot more difficult, and I think you're slowly starting to see that the end of the arc's not going to be a happy ending, I think. Yeah, so unless they get control of the Seraphim again, which I think would be a little over the top, too, and I don't think it's going to be possible at this point, with everything that's going on. So I'm going to think like Boa is actually going to need to come back in the story to free some of the Straw Hats. I'm not saying they're going to have to go see her, but maybe they'll meet up with her somehow.
Yeah.
That's just my thought there. And then now we're kind of get to the last part of this. What are your thoughts?
It took me by surprise. We see Shaka just get headshot. It's actually pretty graphic for One Piece. Maybe because he's like a robot, he can get away with it. But just looking at Vegapunk's eyes, it's like he almost doesn't believe what's happening. So, I kind of found it weird that, like when we see Shaka leaving, he's just like, "Oh, I think I may know where the cell has gotten to." Like he just dips from Luffy and Zoro's group.
Yeah.
So do you have any thoughts about who it might be?
So I actually watched Mr. Morge's video on his theory that it's Doflamingo. And so basically he states in a nutshell, people should go watch it. It was really good, but that the Seraphim have to take orders, but that doesn't necessitate them not teaming up to overturn against the Vegapunks, basically. Like they can still hurt them, and I don't know. I guess I have some friction because they try to give them orders and it doesn't work, So my whole point, I think it could be Doflamingo for a couple reasons, because he has celestial dragon blood. That'd be something I would add into this, and maybe that's kind of like the cheat code to get in, right?
Maybe.
Right, and also Doflamingo was kind of known for using a pistol on a couple of occasions too.
Yeah.
So that kind of comes to mind. Now let's see. In terms of the government, I mean, hey, it could be Saturn. It could be him. Because Zara could easily get him onto the island. To accomplish this, and then that can make sense that he just took control of all the Seraphim. And I think the other option that Mr. Mord presented was it could be the Blackbeard Pirates, because Luffy could hypnotize people. Katarina Devon could, transform into Vegapunk and to give orders, right? But I'd say, and then obviously they could use Van Augur to easily teleport people on here. But I'd say my only issue with that is then why wouldn't the Vegapunk's orders still change them,
Yeah.
So I would kind of say then as a result that I'm leaning more towards the world government, Mr. Saturn. I think that's what I'm leaning more towards, or Doflamingo, because he has celestial dragon blood.
I mean, this necessarily might not be the person who issued the order. It could be just some other person on there.
Right.
But I'm just wondering if... Well, my first thought probably isn't true. When I saw Sanji left, I was like, okay, so who was in Sanji's group? Stussy. And I'm just wondering if she's what would that make her? A quadruple agent or whatever?
Yes.
But then again, as you were explaining your theory with the pistol and everything, it's like she uses the
finger pistol.
Yeah, she uses the finger pistol, so there would be no need for a regular pistol. So yeah, I honestly don't know what's going on.
And he can't be one of the paths anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that either.
Yeah. Unless it's Atlas, but I doubt it's Atlas because Atlas was with Jinbei and Sussy.
No, Atlas was with Chopper and Robin.
Chopper Robin. Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and Jinbei and Sanji and Stussy were all together. It was just the three of them. So they were the only ones without a Vegapunk with them.
So this could not be the person that gave the orders, but maybe Stussy found a way to control them because she used to be such an essential part to Mads.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible in that respect too. I don't know how she would do it, or this could just be her betraying everybody too. Jinbei's strong and everything, but he can always get distracted by something, and she's definitely very slippery person.
Mm-hmm.
That can take advantage of a lot of situations.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any real theory.
Yeah, those are my general thoughts, though. Yeah, definitely shocking, though. Do you think we'll find out who the traitor is next chapter?
Probably, yeah. It's gonna be a long week, but we can do it.
Yeah, that sounds good. So any closing thoughts?
I'm excited to see with what Sentomaru was talking about, with this being even worse than Ohara.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard to imagine it being worse than Ohara, unless they were talking about like just the loss of the technology, because Ohara was just a whole nation that was destroyed. So
right.
Unless they valued that in all of Vegapunk's research and everything greater than people's lives, which they probably do.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, but overall, I actually thought it was like a pretty fantastic chapter. I know we spent a lot of time on the Sanji stuff, probably more than the trader stuff, but overall, though, really enjoyed it. Actually, one final question, though. If Boa were to come across a Luffy, so out of those four, do you think any of them would be affected by Boa's ability? Like Luffy, Luffy, Zoro, Kaku, Lucci.
Probably Kaku and Lucci. Maybe Zoro, but definitely not Luffy.
I think Lucci's kind of coming off as kind of like a parallel Luffy in a lot of ways, like both blunt and, all that kind of stuff. And he's kind of a sociopath. I don't think it would remotely faze him. I think Kaku and Zoro, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, so I'll leave it at that. But anyways, thanks for listening, everyone. Like and subscribe. One Piece is back. Hooray. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.